Hello and welcome to the Coon Hunting University podcast. This is your host, Tyler Duncan, and like always, class is in session. Hey y'all, so Coon Hunting University is brought to you by Superior Light Company, best lights in the business. If you don't believe me, go check them out, nighthunters.com. Use coupon code CHU podcast at checkout and receive almost $20 off Hellcat Max. But that code is good for any Superior Light on that website and the battery tester, which works with the Hellcat Max. So go over there and check them out.
My thoughts and prayers go out to all the people that were devastated by the tornadoes last week, in Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, Missouri, Illinois, and just everyone who was affected. Even if you were indirectly affected, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. And it was devastating. People lost everything. People lost their lives. That's serious. And just know that you're in our thoughts and prayers. If there's anything that I can do to assist with this podcast or on my personal level, please let me know. If anyone knows of anything, just let me know. And I'll do whatever I can to help those people. It's truly devastating. It really is. And it's extremely sad to see. And I would encourage you to keep them in your thoughts and prayers as well. So today I'm joined by Mr. Josh Michaelis from the extremely popular segment from Houndsman XP called The Truth. He's also been on Houndsman XP a couple times. So and we're going to get a little truth today on the Coon Hunting University podcast. I think y'all will enjoy it. We're going to discuss competition hunting, some of the dogs that Josh has hunted with, and I think it's just going to be really, really awesome. I think y'all will enjoy it. So without further ado, Mr. Josh Michaelis, y'all sit back and enjoy. So really, I'd like to congratulate you on your new position with the Joy Dog Food.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So if you could, tell the folks that are listening to this a little bit about yourself. I know you got the Truth podcast, maybe something that you hadn't said on there about yourself.
Me and Jeremy both, we're just coon hunters. That's what we do. We like treeing walkers. We've been breeding treeing walkers and raising treeing walkers since I was little. Like a lot of people, our grandfather got us started. He was a unique man, a unique individual, but we came from pretty humble roots. We didn't have a lot of money. We were pretty rural, but we always had hounds. And as long as I could remember, since I was 5 years old, we had tree and walker hounds. So I remember we had one blue tick and some crossbred dogs and some odds and ends and stuff like that. But we've always had walkers ever since. First memory I have of them is around 1984, and we've had them ever since.
So your grandpa's the one that kind of got you into hunting?
He is. He was a northern man. His family came from Michigan, up around the Pellston area, and we used to go up there and still coon hunt back when I was younger too. But him and my grandmother moved down to North Missouri, I believe in, wanting to say this mid 70s. I'm not sure, mid 70s or so. And he got us started. There was a man here that I believe got him started. I'm not for sure. Al Evans, I think. He had hunted up in Michigan and been around hounds and stuff, but him and Al had started hunting before I was born. And I'm going to tell a funny story about that. And the story that most of the coon hunting families or coon hunting side of the family knows is my grandfather had one eye. He couldn't see very well. He had lost it in a bar fight when he was, I assume, a younger man. And him and Al Evans were hunting one night, and Al had a red bone coon dog that was really good. I believe the dog's name was Bear. Now, my grandfather couldn't see well, but he could shoot. He carried a little Ruger single six revolver with him. And Bear was in a brush pile hunting. They were hunting one night, and Bear was in a brush pile. And Grandpa seen eyes, thought it was a coon, pulled his revolver out, and killed Al's dog. Probably one of the most, and I guess it was just an outstanding coon dog. Coons were very high back then, $45, $50 for a coon hide in late 70s, early 80s. And grandfather seen the eyes, thought it was a coon, shot Al's dog, and I think that was one of the very first hunts that they were ever on, and the fact that they stayed friends after that and until Al passed is a miracle and a testament to my grandfather probably being one of the most likable people on the planet, because there's not very many people that could do that to another man's dog and then stay friends.
No, that's crazy, man. You was talking about being like $50 a hide, like back in your grandpa's day. Can you imagine that? I mean, that was a lot of money back then.
And I mean, there weren't as many raccoons then. I mean, especially where I'm at now, it's just crazy numbers. I think the last year that we trapped and we sold hides and we tried to actually make some money at it was 2013, and I averaged $22.50, and that was good. I had a good haul that year. We skinned over 300 coons.
Yeah.
But you think of double that, and then you think of 50-cent gas, and you could go buy a loaf of bread for a quarter, and how cheap everything was back then. I mean, there wasn't many roadkill coons that laid around the road very long. I mean, someone was going to get them and skin them and sell them, because they were a valuable commodity at that time.
People were using that as a supplemental income, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what bought a lot of Christmas presents, and a lot of a truck. A guy would wear out a truck on a trap line or wear a truck out hunting with good dogs, and you could pay for that truck and get you a brand new one for $7,000-8,000 at the end of the year. I mean, the guys that were good at it really made a lot of money, but they didn't have the coon numbers, at least here in the Midwest, that we do now. If they got to that point, which $50 back then is surely be $100 today, a man could make a lot of money. 25, 30 raccoons a day, it would be no trouble with a good trap line.
So where you're at now, you're talking about the coon population. Y'all have a really, really high coon population, huh?
The highest we've always had coons, and even especially the last 10 years, but it's the highest I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. Just go out and treat 10 or 12 coons a night, you can do that pretty easily and not have dogs that don't look good. Our dogs could not look good and we could still treat 15 coons. It's crazy right now. Now we do have places where, due to our management, we don't have hardly any, and that's good for our dogs to turn them loose in there where they got to work. But yeah, as far as just coon numbers, North Missouri has exploded in the last 3 years.
That's crazy to me to think that, you can have that many coons in a place. Coming from Mississippi, I know it's a lot different hunting as far as where we hunt. We hunt a lot of big timber, big river bottoms, but that's crazy to me to think treeing 15 coons in one hunt.
We just got done with the La Plata 64 dog Pro Classic. Just finished it up last night. And I think I read today there were 340 coons treed.
Cool.
This week. That's Wednesday through Saturday.
That is crazy. That is just mind blowing.
I think I guided a couple nights. We treed 5 one night and 6 the next, and we were kind of in the low end as far as casts that come in. Most casts were treeing 8 to 12.
Dang, man, that's just mind boggling. Honestly, that's crazy. So
we got
yeah, it sounds like it for sure. What are some of the hounds that you've owned or handled over the years, and what are their accomplishments or y'all's accomplishments together?
I've owned a bunch, and I've hunted with a bunch and handled a few, but I mean, I'm not a super accomplished handler. I've done pretty well, but nothing crazy. I spoke about my grandfather earlier, God bless him, but he didn't have any good coon dogs. We had a night champion female called Willie's Miss Night Moves. We called her Missy. And back when a night champion was a really hard task to have, and she was a pretty good dog, and that's the only good dog I ever remember my grandfather having, ever. And after that, I started hunting for the public when I was 18 to about 21. I just hunted young dogs for a few guys, Tom Cooney out of Nebraska and Pete Swihart out of Iowa, and they would send me pups every month, and I would hunt them, and then I would send them back. And so I never really got into competition hunting very hard until, I was a PKC member. I went to maybe a few PKC casts, nothing serious, until probably about 9 years ago. And I started 9 years ago with this dog that I still have now, which is Duds. he's won a little. You know, he's been in the semifinals of some pro hunts, some legacy hunts, state hunts, things like that. Nothing major. He is a UKC night champion. He's been qualified for the world hunt a bunch of times, but we never have taken him. He's a real talented dog, but he's a head case and he doesn't travel well. But he was out of a dog called Skipper's Deuce, who was my brother's, and my brother had Nocturnal Skipper. And when he bought Nocturnal Skipper, that's kind of when we both started hitting the hunts pretty hard. He did it before I did, but mostly UKC, but the PKC stuff came later. So he went from Skipper to Deuce, and then I went from Deuce to Duds, and then Duds to a pup out of him called Coon. He was a Super Stakes quarterfinalist. He's won a little bit in PKC, same thing as Duds, you know, some Final Fours here and there, nothing major. And then I also handle dogs for Jed Finley. I've handled the Stylish Bella dog, who won the Trader Pup Hunt twice. And then I went to handling Rain for both Finley and McCaskill. And I've been in the finals of the Kinder Pro Classic, the Memphis Pro Classic. Got her into the quarterfinals of the World Hunt with Jed's help. He handled her some through that too. Top 27, I think, of the world in 2020, and then quarterfinalist in 2019. So we've done well. Some dogs that have come from my place have done well. The Delta Dawn dog came from here. We raised her, and there's been a few others, the Blinken dog and stuff like that. So I mean, we're not crazy big winners, but we've done well. We've done okay.
Yeah, I'd say so, man. You've done your fair share for sure. I mean, some of those dogs that you've handled, you know, I mean, I know I've listened to you talk on the truth about them. It seemed like they're really nice.
Rain is, which I have, Bella won me so much money. I think I won, you know, $46,000 with her or something between the Trader Pup Hunt and PKC and stuff. And she just had so much heart, and she was one of my favorite dogs ever. But Rain seems like, I don't know if she's a lot more personable dog than Bella. Bella hated people. She hated me. She hated Jed. She hated anybody that was anywhere near her. And Rain's just a different kind of dog, but I think she's a better coon dog than Bella. I mean, I really do. She's good about having her coons. She's can tree, you know, in thick coons she looks, you know, really good. In thin coons she can hustle out there and tree one too. So, I mean, I have a hard time bragging on anything I hunt because I've seen them look so bad too. You know, these dogs that you hunt a lot, you know, you've seen them look good and you see them do all these amazing things, but keep in mind we've hunted these dogs since they were babies, and they go through bad stretches. I mean, bad stretches. And so that weighs on your mind when you try to go brag on a dog. And, you know, I've seen Con make 15, 16, 17 mulberry slicks in a row. I've seen him not want to go hunting in a cast because he don't want to be there. I've seen Duds just do the most ignorant things on the planet. And so it's hard to brag on a dog. If you see these guys that are bragging all the time about how great their dog is, they're not hunting them very hard because they're just not seeing. If you hunt a dog long enough, it's just there's going to be bad stretches where a dog just does not look like it should. So I don't know. I hate tooting a dog's horn because they'll make you a liar every time.
Oh yeah, quick. So how do you like a dog to operate and why?
I like a dog that utilizes its skill set well. You take, when Rain is at her best, she's treeing coons every 200 or 300 yards that dogs can't smell. You know, she's laying coons up. She's hustling between trees. You know, and her toolkit that she has is she doesn't bark much on the ground, but she's really good about treeing coons around dogs, behind dogs, and she's good in thick coons. And so when I get her in those areas, I like to see her use all that instead of taking time off or doing things like that. Duds, for instance, is one of the most talented track dogs I've ever seen go. I mean, this dog can move a track better than 99 out of 100 dogs I've ever hunted with. And so I want him hustling and moving around good and trying to find that track that he can finish quickly. Con's the best when, you know, he's just focused on tree and coons, and his toolkit is that he's a great layup dog. When he's hustling around, he's nailing them layup coons, and that's what I like to see. But when you look at all that, and we've talked about this on The Truth, is it's just all heart. You know, these dogs, they got to have so much heart and hustle and drive. And if a dog doesn't have that, then you don't have anything. I don't care how talented they are. A dog can have more talent than a dog over here that's beating and banging around and not going fast or not doing what he's supposed to. But if that dog keeps hustling when the other one wants to be lazy, then you're going to get beat. And in these hunts, it's such a fine line anymore, especially in the pro classics, because all these dogs are so good. And if you don't have one that uses every second I got beaten the last 5 minutes by Riley Robertson the other night, the last 5 seconds. He trees a coon with 5 seconds to go to beat me. And if that dog isn't hustling and it takes a minute off in that cast, then he don't win that cast. He don't win $1,200 or something. So it's just important when you ask how a dog operates, we want them to play to their strengths, but they can't do that if they're not hustling and they don't have a lot of heart and a lot of go. So that's the main thing anybody looks for, I think, in the PKC circuit.
Well, I think it's interesting how you said you don't necessarily have a particular type of dog that you like, but you like for that dog to use its abilities or use its skills to the best of its ability, right?
Yeah. Yes. And you got to know what your dog's strengths are. And unless you're honest with yourself as a handler and a trainer, you're not going to know that. Like Duds, for instance, he can't lay a coon up. I mean, I could put a coon in a tree, and tie him to it. And if that coon don't come down, he's not going to know it's there. I mean, he's just not that kind of dog. He needs a track. Con is not the best track dog. Now he can pick a coon out that hasn't been down in a few hours and have it, so that's what I want him to do. You got to know where your dogs are good and where they're going to succeed. Bella was good where the coons were a little thinner. She's not going to just go light up a scoreboard very often. Con's the same way. And so you want them to do the things that they're good at, and you don't want them to focus on the things that they're bad at. I don't want Con sitting out in a cornfield and trying to push a coon out of it and treeing it, because that's not his game. That's not what he's good at. We don't want Rain, flying through the world and ambushing coons every mile and a half. That's not her forte. That's not how she's going to succeed. So you want to know your dog and you want to know what they're good at, but also, you just don't want to, you got to be honest with yourself of what they're bad at too, or you're never going to be able to do well with them.
Well, I think that you articulated that extremely well as far as, a lot of people, you say, well, how do you like a dog to operate? Well, I want it to be by itself, and I want it to be a layup dog, or I want to, some people, I want a dog that's going to take a cold track. Well, you just want that dog, if it's going to run a track, you want to run a track to the best of its ability. And I think that was, I've never heard it articulated that way, and that is really, really spot on. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, when someone says, how do you want a dog to operate? Well, I want him to be perfect. I want him to be able to fly through it on a cold track and treat it like it's hot. I want him to lay coons up, but dogs aren't perfect. Dogs are far from perfect. I mean, they've got so many holes. Even the great ones just have huge holes. The ones that I've seen. I mean, if you hunt with them hard enough, you're going to find out what those are. And so you got to play to your strength, and you got to do what the dog does well. And, trying to keep them consistent is the best way. If you're going to try and keep them consistent, the best way to do it is keep, playing to their strengths, because they're not going to get better at something that they're not naturally good at. That they're not, a dog that can't run a track isn't just going to start running a track because you hunt him harder. A dog that can't lay a coon up isn't going to tree more layup coons just because you hunt them harder. So yeah, they'll get better a little bit at certain things, but you just want to know what your dog is good at, and that's what you want him to hustle around and do whenever you turn him loose.
Yep, and you hit the nail on the head there, bud. So if you could pick two judges, a judge and a co-judge for the biggest cast of your life, who would they be and why?
Oh, that is a good question. Good judges. Let me think. I'd want Nathan Guthrie to be my co-judge. And then I would want to turn a dog loose that goes 19 miles like Nathan Guthrie's dog does every time I judge her. So he has to walk with me and be miserable, just like every time I have to walk to that frickin' Spice Girl who's forever through the planet. So that would be my co-judge. And I don't care if he has to make a decision or not. I just want him there to where he can walk with me and right. And then Who is? I mean, there's a lot of good judges out there. I think my other one would be Jason Doherty, just so he could keep me humble. If my dog's looking good, Jason would just tell me how bad it is the whole time, and so that would kind of keep me grounded. So I think that would be my pick: and Jason Doherty and Nathan Guthrie.
All right, and that's some good reasons too. One of them so you could punish them, the other one so they could punish you.
Exactly. I think that'd be a good combo. And they're both pretty good dog, man.
Yeah.
I had to judge Spice again the other night. She walked us forever. That's a good dog. I like that dog, but I like giving Nathan a hard time too.
Yeah. So, what are the top 3 dogs you've hunted with, and why?
That's a good question because some of them are so good at certain things that others aren't. And I've let it be known in the past, the best 2 hours I've ever seen was out of Big Country. It was amazing to watch. One of the few times that I'd been wowed, and the main reason I've never hunted with Country again. I never want to because I don't want to see the dog make a mistake. He was amazing, so I got to go with Big Country first. Second was X Junior. X was one of the most talented dogs I've ever seen, and he had all that chrome and all the bells and whistles. He was just a good dog. I mean, that dog was just good, and there's no way around it. And then, man, that's tough because, I mean, I've got a top 10, but top 3, I got to say, I want to say Trader because Trader I've never seen a dog that could look so bad going into a major event and then just turn a light on when you hauled him away from the house. And people that don't do what we do don't understand how rare that is. I mean, that is just dogs that are better when they are, 12 hours from the house, turn loose with 3 strange dogs are so rare. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And Trader was like that. I mean, Trader was a good coon dog around the house too, but he just had that something when you hauled him. And so I would say those are probably my top 3. There's so many other good ones too. Ruby I like, and 3D I loved, and there's a bunch of them too that I like and that I would be just super proud to own, and I like their owners and stuff like that. But as far as top 3, I would have to go Country, X, Trader, in that order.
And I'm kind of glad you brought the Trader dog up. So when I was probably 15 or 16 then. But I remember getting Coonhound Bloodlines or American Cooner and seeing the Devil's Child, Stylish Trader. I thought that was the coolest dog ever.
I thought he was hideous. That was the ugliest thing.
Well,
man,
he was so ugly he was cool. But I mean, I just liked the page on him. I remember looking at it as a kid, and being like, man, that is the coolest dog ever. Just being starstruck. I don't know. And I did love your episode with John Strickland about Big Country. I'm sure that you blew up about that, afterwards.
We did.
Yeah.
Country's such a strange, and Trader was the same way when Trader was hunted hard. They were just controversial. And a lot of Trader stuff was because of Jed, but people don't understand how big Trader was. There's big dogs, and then there's Trader. Trader was 90 pounds. And Trader was a thin 90 pounds. It ain't like he was bulked up huge, The dog was long and leggy and stuff, and so he had blue eyes that glowed a different color at night. He was all white. He bit Jed like every tree that he handled him at. I mean, the dog was wild and he was fun to hunt with, but he was different. I think that's why Trader got so much love that he got, not just because he was a good coon dog, because he was, but he was just so different. And I think Country was kind of the same way. Here's this blue tick that comes out of nowhere, and we say he's out of nowhere because all of a sudden, he's winning with Burkholder, and then all of a sudden some guy from North Carolina's bought him for what is reported as pretty good money, and Wes is breeding one of the winningest female of all time to him, and so he just kind of come out of nowhere and shocked the world. So he was different too. And I think coon hunters are just drawn to something different. I really do.
Yeah. And you're probably right, to be honest with you. So what's your most memorable cast and why?
my most memorable cast is a no-brainer. It's when I got Con in at Super Stakes. And I've won casts that were worth way more casts. And you'll hear Jason talk about when he got his dog in at Super Stakes at his first hunt. It's on our podcast. But taking a pup that is out of your own stock and raising it from 6 weeks old to, a 1-year-old where it can compete in the sophomore Super Stakes, and to have it look like it did and to get in is, I don't care what anybody says, it is one of the greatest accomplishments of coon hunting. I firmly believe that as a 1-year-old, Con was the greatest 1-year-old at the time. He was the best 1-year-old on the planet. I don't care what anybody says. I know he didn't win Super Stakes, but he was, and a lot of people that hunted with him would tell you the same thing. But we were in that cast. I had no luck on Monday. I had treed the fire out of coons on Tuesday early. I treed 3 coons and a den tree all by myself and still got beat. So I'm kind of bummed out. And on Wednesday comes around, and this dog should be in. This is such a good 1-year-old. He was so polished. At 1-year-old, he's the same dog as he is now at 6. And so I come into Wednesday, and he trees 2 coons in the first hour early on the early round, and everybody else had drawn minus. And so they withdraw, and they let me go into the late round. And we're hunting along the lake over there at Super Stakes, and it's cold, 41, 42 degrees, and the wind is blowing like crazy, and it's raining. Miserable night to be out, and the coons aren't moving. Nothing good's happening. And Con is way off by himself, and he just needs a coon to win. Some dogs had treed some circle trees. One dog had treed a coon but took some minus. He was an hour, which everybody that's hunted with Con knows that he don't say much on the ground, but he was an hour and 8 minutes into that cast before he opened. He never said a word for an hour and 8 minutes, and he was hunting. He was moving around. He was hustling pretty good. But he had went upwind, and we could hear him forever away, and he's got a big mouth, so that helped. But we get to the end of this hunt, and I finally get him treed in with maybe 10 or 15 minutes to go, and he's way over a mile away. And all he needs is this coon to get in, and I walk, and we walk some more, and we get to him, and he's in a den tree. And I squall this coon out of a den, and he gets plussed up, and he gets in at Super Stakes. And that was still, I've won a lot more money. I think that cast paid like $1,200 or something, which is great money. I mean, that's a lot of money to a guy like me, and I was excited. But still, to get a dog in that you raised in at Super Stakes, I remember every second of every cast, I think, during that run. I mean, that dog looked good all week other than Monday. And, we didn't win Super Stakes, but the dog made a good showing, and I turned down a lot of money for that dog after that. But to do that and to get a dog in that you raised that is out of your own stock and all that stuff is just, I don't know if it can be replicated other than winning it. Other than winning Super Stakes with your own dog or a world hunt or something like that, I don't see how it could be better.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And even, going back to your podcast with Jason on there, how he was saying that he felt like Super Stakes was his greatest accomplishment, Yeah.
I mean, it's such a, and I never went to Super Stakes very often. It had never made any sense to me because I could go win more money with less entry and less fuss at somewhere else, so I never went. And when I got Con, I decided to. That was my first Super Stakes. I'd never been to one, but I knew I had a good dog, and I thought I could win. And I honestly, to be honest, I thought I would go through there and breeze through that thing. But people don't understand how good these 1-year-olds at Super Stakes are. I mean, they're good. It's hard to win that too, just like it is anything.
So what's one cast that you wish wasn't memorable, and why?
I'll tell you what. I was at my one and only CHKC cast, and I was hunting a dog called Fistful of Dollars. And I've been on record as to saying nobody gets cheated. It's so rare, and it is, because only twice it's happened to me in, a long time. I've been in a lot of casts. I've been only cheated twice, and this was one of them. And I'll remember it forever because I was annihilating this cast. I was up over 600 points in I was at 425. I think the closest dog to me was 200 in the hole. I think I was up 6.25. And Dollar had treed 3 coons, and nothing else had. They treed possums, they treed slicks, they'd left some trees. These guys were circling some. It was the first time I ever put a question on a card, actually, ever. They circled just absolute gut slick trees, and I cut Dollar loose. There was 14 minutes to go when I took Dollar off his last coon, and I cut him loose and walked us 30 seconds is what it was in CHKC. And I asked them if they were making me cut because there's no way they can catch me. And they say yes, all 3 of them. And when I turned Dollar loose, they all 3 jumped up and said they had seen me kicking and I was scratched. And it's a 3-1 vote, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I went home. That was the most memorable cast that I wish I would never participated in my life. That's the only time I think I've never been cheated that bad until then, and I haven't been cheated that bad since. But they got together and decided that I wasn't winning the cast and there's nothing they can do about it, so that's what they did.
Dang, that is messed up right there.
And CHKC had the world by the you-know-what, and we're really making a dent, and God bless them, they just let the inmates run the asylum, and that was the result. You know, you had instances like that where people were getting cheated and they just quit going. And that's one thing I give credit to PKC about, is it is the professional kennel club, and they've treated these events so professionally that, you know, people feel safe and people feel comfortable, and that's why they succeeded where CHKC didn't.
How long ago was that?
That would have been, let's see, Dollar was a 10 model, and I think that was when he was a 4 or 5. That would have been 14 or 15, 2014 or 2015, one of those years. And it was down in Aurora, Kentucky, and that was my first and only CHKC cast ever.
And I've heard you say this before, too, as far as people think they get cheated, but it's not cheating if you use the rules to your advantage.
No, I've done it. All these guys do it. I spent all week at La Plata, Missouri, $2,500 entry, and every cast I was in was great. People used rules. That's what we do. We're professional handlers, and so you're going to get that. But no, there's no cheating. There really isn't. It's so hard to cheat someone who knows what they're doing, and I mean, it's near impossible. And so you look at what PKC's done with all this money, and I try to tell people that the higher the entry fee, the less stress there is. And thank God for Finley for paying these entry fees and letting me go to these hunts, because I haven't been to a $30 hunt in, I don't know, it's been a long time. And that's where the trouble's at. I mean, these guys are, or you're going to run into more trouble and fuss at a low entry hunt than you are a high. And I don't know why that is. But these guys at these high entry fee hunts, they don't cheat. They use the rules. Everybody knows them. Everybody knows their dogs. They got good dogs. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. It's laid back and relaxed, and I'm thankful for it.
Well, you're talking about the $30 hunts. I mean, do you think that's because experience, as far as people, you know, you're not going to enter a $1,000 entry hunt, or you're not going to pay for somebody's entry to enter a $1,000 entry hunt if you don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I know. I understand that. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes there is, but very rarely. But a lot of it is, and Jed still goes to a lot of $30 hunts and stuff. And it's getting, you know, we're right here around the house. Everybody knows this. It's not a huge deal. But, you know, some of these guys say if I go to a local UKC hunt or something like that, and they see me as, oh, that's the Truth Podcast guy, or that's the guy that's won all this money in PKC, and we're going to beat his brains out, and we're going to show him what a real coon dog is, and they get mad when you show up and beat them, or they try to cheat you. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, people take things so seriously that they can't stand to lose, and they can't maybe focus on what's really going on in front of them. If my dog looks bad, it just looks bad, you know. But some of these guys get really attached to their dog, and some of these guys really want to beat somebody that's well known, and so they'll do things that they shouldn't do, or, you know, everybody just sees things differently. So, but all I know is that I've had more trouble on entries from $15 to $50 than I have on $6,500 entries. And so, and that's just the way it is. The better the dog men, the better the hunt, and the better dog men are paying good money for entry fees. I mean, that's just the world we live in.
So I've heard Steve Fielder say it. You know, a man's ego is a heavy burden for a dog to bear.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is. Like you're saying, you know, you got to be real about yourself and your dog.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't be honest with your dog, for one, you can't make it better. If you have a breeding program where your dogs have a hole and you won't see it, and you're never gonna be able to close that hole. I mean, it's just, I've known a lot of guys that fall in love with this dog and they don't want to see what it does wrong, just like a parent with a kid, where the kid comes home and he's been terrible at school, but they blame it on the teacher. You know, the same kind of people that are doing that are the same kind of people that think their dog doesn't ever lose or do anything wrong.
Do you hunt UKC much?
I should, because I like the registry and I like the rules, but no, I do not. Last year when they came out with Tournament Champions, I love that format, and I went and got duds. I don't know if I got him qualified or ended up with 4 wins or something. I don't remember. You know, they're just, they're so different. And it's not like I don't like the people that hunt UKC, because I do. I know a lot of them. I'm friends with a lot of them, but it's just not the same. And it's just not the same level of competition. The best dogs aren't there until you get to, you know, late in the Tournament of Champions or late into the World Hunt. And I have a hard time